I want to talk about happiness because that was actually the title of today's show. So I need to get into the topic of happiness because there's all kinds of studies right now. I mean, you can go find them. Like what I just got the super chat. Like somebody asked me this, the question was, back in 2011, it was women who are, I forgot, somebody threw me that again. Women were happy when they weren't in a relationship, and now suddenly they're less happy as a result. All you have to do is you look at the prescription rate for SSRIs. All you have to do is look at how women take antidepressants. All you have to do is look at the futures that Morgan Stanley predicts. I even mentioned it in the Michaela Peterson thing. Look at the unhappiness index. I know that there's a happiness index, but there's definitely an unhappy index. Across the board, men tend to be more happy, whatever the metric is on that, however they're measuring that. And I have a problem with the measurement, by the way. But across the board, at least according to articles and research, depends on who you get to. But it's so varied right now, by the way. When you look at if you go and you look at family statistics or something, if you look, it depends on the source that you go to. Well, women are less happy because they don't have kids and they really wanted to have kids, but they waited too long. And so now they're going to be spinsters and now they're unhappy. You'll see those articles all over the place. And I'm more inclined to believe those, I think, because I think it's more common. Because as I said, as we move forward towards 2030, women are going to be increasingly less likely to find a guy that they really want to get with. They want to settle down with. Like the idea of Prince Charming, right? That solves or that answers the hypergamous doubt, which is he the best I can do? It's funny how the criteria changes the older a woman gets. However, we're talking about happiness. And I think happiness is something that is misunderstood. Because you'll notice that of all of those emotions that I enumerated for you here, where are they? Is this it? You'll notice that happiness doesn't show up on the left side there, okay? Those are emotions involved in the motives for those emotions, or their mental states, I guess, in some cases. I don't know if is curiosity an emotion? I don't think so. I think it's certainly a mental state. A want for justice. Those are motives, right? Okay. So you'll notice that happiness doesn't show up on there. And there's a good reason that it doesn't. Because happiness has a function. It is a means to an end. And you've heard me say this on dozens of other occasions where I say, I talk about discontent. I brought that up on Michaela's channel as well. I believe that I have a strong suspicion that the human condition is defined by our discontent, our unhappiness, whether it's unhappiness or it's just simply really, I'm striving for a goal. Why are you striving for that goal? Because I'm discontent where I'm at now. And I think that if I get this, I'll be more content later. Or I want to produce this because I'm discontent with myself because I haven't produced something else. Okay. Now we can talk. Now we can have a conversation. Okay. But happiness is how you get from discontent to content, and then you move on to the next discontent. Okay. As I've said before, the best way to deal with discontent is creatively. Being creative, for me anyways, maybe I'm speaking for myself, being creative for me makes me happy. I love hanging out with you guys. I am happy as a fucking clam in the ocean right now. Okay. I like doing what I do. I like walking my dogs. That makes me happy. My dogs are very discontent. They're like, God damn it, take me out, right? I like to create art. I like to create music, as you've seen on my Instagram. I'm a creator, first and foremost. And this is part of my act of creation. That makes me happy. But I am also discontent. I want to, I created that. Oh, look, where is it? I got here it is. I'll get this for you real quick. Look. Oh, look. Rolo got 100,000. Actually, I got this back in August. No, it was actually May. I've had this for I can't even remember when I got this. Okay. It's my silver plaque for 100,000 members. And hopefully the Clips channel, by the way, if you didn't know, I have a Clips channel. We're up 51,000, almost 52,000 since August, which is fantastic. But I wasn't content with just running this channel. I wanted to have a clips channel, and it's nice that I make a good chunk of change off of that, but I put that out there because people go, I can't listen to a 4-hour Rollo Tomasi stream. Okay, well, you're discontent. I'm discontent. Let's make everybody happy. So that's how we get there. Happiness is part of the process. It pushes us from one end to the other. Happiness is not a maintainable state, and neither should it be. I don't think happiness, like a sustainable happiness, is not something, it's not a goal. It's a means to an end. And I'll show you why right here. Happiness as a proximate goal. Here, this is, sorry, let me throw Robert Henderson, who I hope will accept my invitation and come on this show soon. Rob, if you're watching, I DM'd you. Human emotions evolved because they generally work to confer evolutionary benefits, surprise, surprise, to us, helping us to ultimately increase the likelihood of survival or reproductive capacities. Happiness is not an end goal. It is a means to an end. So let's continue. This is from that study that I'm quoting him, but this is the study he had. From an evolutionary perspective, human emotions evolved as they have because they generally work to confer evolutionary benefits, as I showed you right here. Those are the evolutionary benefits. Got it? Okay. Now then, I love this one because they generally work to confer evolutionary benefits to us, helping to ultimately increase the likelihood of survival or reproductive capacities. See guitar, glass, gear, blah, blah. Okay, those are the studies. Just as anxiety evolved to help motivate adaptive behaviors, happiness has also evolved to help motivate adaptive behaviors as well. If you look at things that make people happy, you can quickly see that they generally map onto outcomes that would have, on average, led to increased probabilities of survival or reproduction for our ancestors. Here's a short list: food, sex, engaging in fun times with friends, success in social contexts, and task completion. Sound like creative ways of dealing with discontent? Does to me. In broad strokes, we can easily see how these kinds of outcomes not only have the capacity to lead to happiness, but also have clear benefits from an evolutionary perspective. The evolutionary take on happiness then is essentially this: happiness is an affective state that motivates us to engage in actions that are likely to lead to outcomes that would, on average, lead to increases in the likelihood of survival or reproduction. In evolutionary parlance, I invoked a lot of parlance. We would say that happiness is a proximate outcome. So it's why you're doing something. It's the proximate reason. It's like reproduction is the ultimate outcome versus the proximate, which is that girl is really hot and I really want to bang her. It matters and it's nice, but it's not the ultimate evolutionary outcome. Continued. From an evolutionary perspective, ultimate outcomes pertain to outcomes that bear on increases in the likelihood of survival and reproduction. Thus, we may be thrilled to have a piece of chocolate cake on the table in front of us at a birthday party, but that momentary happiness is not an end goal in itself. We evolved to be happy when presented with rich food offerings because our ancestors, who were motivated to find rich foods, were more likely to eat and thus survive and reproduce. Happiness then, like anxiety, is an effective state with the primary evolved function of motivating us to engage in behaviors that would have led to evolutionarily adaptive outcomes under ancestral conditions. Happiness is not a goal. It is a means to an end. That is something I would have. If you want me to say, well, what should I learn? What's the advice here? Learn that. Learn this right now. Happiness is not an end goal. It is a means to an end. It's what motivates you to do things. You might say, well, I'm content because I got where I want. Yeah, you're content until you're not content. And there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the problem with happiness. We think it's an end state. We think it's sustainable. We think contentment, well, you can find contentment in God. There you go. But happiness is a means to that contentment, or anxiety is a means to avert discontentment, right? So is it a destructive way of dealing with discontent, or is it a creative way of dealing with discontent? If you decide to go shoot up half of Denver, that's probably a destructive way of dealing with discontent. If you decide you want to create the next great book, write the next American novel, maybe, paint a masterpiece, so, dedicate yourself to music or whatever else because it's making you happy. Yeah, you can sustain that, but it's a means to an end. What's the end result? It's what the motivation is. So when people say, well, we need to find joy and happiness and we need to, it's not sustainable, nor should it be sustainable, because that leads to stagnation. And I think that needs to be something that guys really sort of wrap their heads around, certainly going forward in 2022. Keep that in mind, because the women that you deal with believe it is an end state. That's why women are unhappy. Thank you, Dalrock, for that. They're unhappy. He's not meeting my needs. Well, her contentment is now your responsibility. Her happiness is the litmus test for a good husband. You got to work on your relationship. Well, what is the end goal? Like, how could I make what's a good relationship? You make me happy. You will not sustain happiness for women ever. You will not find 100% total security for women. Even guys like Jeff Bezos, even the guys with the most money in the freaking world, will never make women happy. What was that? The joke? Chris Rock, you can fuck a woman with a diamond dick and she'll still complain. That's too hard. that was really, it's genius. And we laugh at it because we go, I think on some level of consciousness, we understand that. There's no such thing as contentment. There's no such thing as happiness. And that's not a bad thing. It's okay. Just that's what makes us better. That's what improves us. I'm not happy being a fat ass. I got to go get in the gym. Okay. Now that you're not, okay, poof, 2 years later, now you're not a fat ass and you're in shape. Great. Okay. Well, what am I going to do with all this muscle and this, juicy as fuck, right? Ripped and juicy, tan and juicy as fuck, right? And Robert Frank, go look him up. What are you going to do with it now? Well, what'll make me happy? Looking like this. Yeah, banging a lot of hoes. And then you get to that point where probably John from Modern Life Dating is at right now, where it's like, okay, I've solved the mystery of women and I'm discontent. I've been content, but now I'm not content. Okay, where do you move from there? What's the next step? Well, you can go take the God pill, or you can go try to find but you can try to find some contentment, or try to find the next project or the next goal that you're going to work on. And that's what I do. That's what I will always do. I'll be as creative as I possibly can and make a dent in the universe by being discontent. It's not a problem. I have no problem with being discontent. I'm never bored, by the way, because I've accepted that. You want to know what the secret of like avoiding boredom is? Accept the fact that you're always going to be discontent. Even if you got a doctorate degree and whatever, there's another degree you want to get. There's another mountain you want to climb after that. Good. Please do. Keep going. Do that. Fight injustice, climb a mountain, get a degree, paint a masterpiece, whatever it is. Fuck a hot chick. I never fucked a centerfold. Oh, come on. Until you do. And then you're like, what's next? But understand that it's a process. Happiness is a process. Why are women all on SSRIs, antidepressants? Because they want to be happy and they're not happy. Why do we sedate ourselves? Why do we live in our escapes? Because our shitty life sucks and we want to be happy. You will never make a woman happy. But we live in a society that says it's your responsibility to make that bitch happy. Fuck her with the diamond dick. It's your responsibility. And if you can't please her, then you're less of a man. That is some fucked up shit, man. Because we base our society on an emotional standard that men are not equipped to relate to. As I said in the Ariella thing, we're not equipped for that. Our brains don't function the way that women's do. But we've developed a society in the last 60 some odd years that says you're stunted, you're retarded. There's something clinically retarded because you don't think the way that women do. You don't have friends. You don't make friends. You don't talk like we do. Boy, if you just got in touch with your feminine side, then you'd be a more perfected human being. No, fuck you. I'm already a guy. I'm perfected as it is. I'm perfected right now because I accept the fact that happiness is a passing state. It is something that gets me from point A to point B. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm happy and knowing that. In fact, I'm like happy as a pig and shit. Let's see. Okay, I got to that. This was really good too. So this is kind of ancillary to that real quick. This is Rob Henderson once again. And this was, I think this was a quote. Yeah, it is. This is a quote from Robert Greene, 48 Laws of, the Laws of Human Nature. Okay, his most recent book. All organisms are shaped to behave in ways that increase fitness, even if that decreases health and happiness. So sadness and depression and anxiety, by the way, like unpleasant emotions, are also serve a similar function to happiness. Okay. Our emotions benefit our genes far more than they do us. Understand? All organisms are shaped to behave in ways that increase fitness, even if that decreases health and happiness. Did you ever desperately want to have sex with someone, even though you knew that could lead to disaster? Most people have with some dire consequences. What do they say? Danger and delight grow on the same vine. Most people have with sometimes dire consequences. Then there are the rest of our desires, the inevitable suffering because they cannot all be fulfilled. We want badly to be important, rich, loved, admired, attractive, and powerful for what? The good feelings from succeeding are just about balanced by the bad feelings from failure. Our emotions benefit our genes far more than they do us. It's because those emotive states are means to an end. You people will really hate me for saying this, but again, the jury's still out on this. I'm just connecting a dot here for you. But depression, and yes, it is real, Andrew Tate. Depression actually serves an evolutionary function. Depression, passivity, cowardice even serves an evolutionary function. Live to fight another day, right? Depressed people tend to not post up on people who would kill them, who would kick their asses had they found some sort of, gumption to do so. So when you talk about depressive states, anxiety, really what that's essentially in the sense that happiness is something that motivates us to something else. That's also something that, like anxiety, depression, bad feelings, either are meant to motivate us out of that, or they're meant to warn us or to, caution us or suppress us from doing certain things that would and otherwise lead to us being killed and our DNA not being passed on. Those are very important concepts. Those are this is like X level red pill. Okay. This is like stuff that you really have to wrap your heads around so you know why your behaviors are what they are. This belief in the soulmate myth wraps right into the idea about a sustainable they lived happily ever after. Really? Really? And that's how we're going to end the story. And they lived happily ever after. They were star-crossed lovers, and they saw each other across the high school gym at the homecoming dance, and they got together, and they realized they were soulmates, and they lived happily ever after. Would you buy that book? Probably not. Conflict is what makes a good story. Overcoming difficulty, what's the conflict? Oh, they lived happily ever after. You wouldn't buy that. What would you rather read? Would you rather read a story about a guy who lived a shit life and came up, overcame his obstacles and overcame maybe a disability or whatever? I mean, the guy who goes from zero to hero. Or would you rather read about the guy who goes, well, once upon a time, there was a guy and he lived a pretty average life. He came up in the suburbs of Ohio, and he went to college, got a degree, found a girl who kind of got a little pudgy, but she's all right. And they had 2 kids and a golden retriever in the front yard, and they lived happily ever after. Which book are you going to buy? See what I mean? You'll probably be more happy, more engaged listening to how this guy in his shitty life came up and threw a cog in the machine of the Rage Against the Machine than you would about the guy who just, here's a guy who a pretty good life. Delta male, right? He just did what he's supposed to, and everything worked out for him. Nobody wants to read that story. Nobody wants to see that movie, man. Human emotions evolve because they generally work to confer evolutionary benefits to us, helping us to ultimately increase the likelihood of survival and reproductive capacity. Okay, that was the same one. Sorry, my bad. Did I get to all of these? I think I did. So anyways, I felt like I needed to talk about happiness a little bit because I think guys, particularly beta males, when they get into a relationship, whether you've married a single mom or you found your girl, my high school sweetheart, if you are living to make that girl happy, in fact, guys take pride in that. It's like a virtue. I do everything to make the little lady happy. I gotta go ask the boss, right? If that's you, this is where you're at. You don't understand the fact that happy is a transitory state. And it serves a purpose, and it's great when we're happy. I love riding my snowmobile; it makes me very happy. I might feel better about myself. Maybe there's an ultimate goal to that, right? Maybe people go, oh man, Rollo rides snowmobiles. Oh, I like him a lot better now because he does that. I get off on it. I love it, right? Or I fish, right? Or I paint miniatures. Thank you, Sydney, for revealing my deepest, darkest secrets. So anyways, the point being is that happiness is not a state that you can sustain. And I think that once you realize that, I'm not getting Buddhist on you or Zen or anything like that. I'm like, oh, just eliminate all desire. You can't. You're a human being. Sorry. That's not how the machine's built. Or Jordan Peterson. Oh, well, we just have to, life is suffering. We have to find ways to sort of reduce that suffering. Fuck you. It's not about suffering. It's about being happy in the process. You don't find happiness in the goal. You find happiness in the maybe you do at the end for a little while, but you find happiness in the process. We get off on like putting things together, right? We get off on the construction. We get off on even women when they're talking to like other women. It's like they get off on conversation. Well, conversation makes them happy. Why? Because increasing networks and status and all these other, where to go? Here it is. Because we can build this stuff with an enjoyment of communication, right? I mean, at least certain aspects of that anyhow. There might be, you could probably make a few connections to the functions of that. Sure. Why not?